Okay, good morning. There are a few things I'd like to go over with everyone on the video here before I take specific questions and answers from the students who have attended, have come to the Zoom this morning. This is being recorded, so I will upload it later in the day. I would first off like to remind everyone that you need to redeem your lab codes as soon as possible. There is a little bit of a difficulty if you live in an apartment building, but if you call them, they will make arrangements for you. Please, please, please redeem those codes. This week, today would be best, so that you're sure to get your lab kit before the long Memorial Day weekend. We don't want those bacteria and media plates laying out on someone's porch or being in transit even when the temperatures are so hot. As to what should be refrigerated, you'll notice that I did post a announcement, I thought, that had a video in it about what should be refrigerated. I don't see it now, but I'm sure, I think it's there somewhere. And then I would also like to talk a little bit about what's coming up on the quiz, lecture quiz 1, which is opening up tonight at 12:01 a.m. So technically tonight at midnight or tomorrow morning at 12:01 a.m. You'll notice that it does include everything from chapters 1 through 5. I would also direct your attention to the fact that these lecture videos are really important for you to watch, because in the lecture videos, it's basically me giving the lecture on one of two things: either the parts of the chapter that I think are so important that they're going to be on the quiz, and or the parts of the chapter that are difficult to understand or might be new material for you. And I feel like you should have at least some sort of an idea of what's going on. Chapter 1 is fairly short. It's an introductory chapter. Again, please pay attention to the parts of it that are covered in this lecture video. That is what's going to be on the quiz. For chapter 2, you'll notice there is no lecture video. That's because chapter 2 is a review of chemistry. You should have already taken Chem 101 and 102 by now, and or it's a prerequisite that you have Bio 111 or some equivalent to Bio 111 before you are able to register for this course. And in Bio 111, we spent an extensive time talking about the chemistry, especially the inorganic chemistry and the organic molecules that are important and needed for in microbiology. So that's why there's nothing for chapter 2. You'll notice the Connect was a little bit longer because I wanted to just give you an opportunity to review as much of that chemistry as you could. Chapter 3, it is very important that for chapter 3, for this first lecture quiz, that you only focus on, as stated in the chapter 3 video, you'll notice it's in 2 parts. The first part is the 5 I's. And that's because I want you to just have a definition of what the 5 I's are and a brief description of them. So definition / description. There is a nice 2-page spread in your textbook on page 54 and 55 that go through that, both pictorially, and then there's little boxes underneath that give descriptions. The words that go with that end at the very top of page 56, and then you are to skip the sections that say media and the section that says isolation on 62, the section on everything up until the second column on page 64. The second column of page 64 picks up with the microscope, which you'll notice is this second lecture video. I should have labeled those those are the homeworks. Sorry. I guess this is the whole video lecture. Sorry about that. These are the homeworks. So we pick up again section 3.2 on page 64. And then we finish that out to the end of the chapter. It's about microscopes, different types of microscopes. For that, I would focus on the characteristics of a particular microscope and its application, meaning what do scientists or clinical microbiologists use that kind of microscope for. And then at the very end of that section, there's a section on staining, which is reiterated for you if you have gone through the virtual labs of making a smear, gram staining, acid fast spore, and capsule staining. You notice that those I have extended past the due date of the exam. I would try, if possible, to at least complete the microscopy bright field part 1 and part 2 here with oil immersion, making a smear, and at least one of the staining labs. It's kind of your choice, but I would try to complete those if you can before the quiz, because it will give you a little bit more insight as to what I was talking about. But if you can't, it's no big deal. Chapter 4, for most of you, that is the new material. That's like the meat of, because it's the most new material, it's probably, there's probably the most questions about chapter 4 on the quiz. I don't know the numbers of questions per chapter off the top of my head, but again, that's why it's in 2 lecture videos. Right, so lecture video part 1 of chapter 4, lecture video part 2. Oh, sorry, I thought I was sharing screens with you guys. Dang it. Someone should have texted me in the chat or said something. Sorry about that. So again, for chapter 4, there are 2 lecture videos. I would watch both of them. I would take notes. I've split out the Connect into 3 assignments so that it was a smaller chunk of time for you, because I realize those Connect assignments can get very lengthy. And then chapter 5, that should just be review. The first half of the chapter should be review. The second half of the chapter is the part that would be new to most of you, and or it would be new in terms of how it's important for microbiology. So I've tried to limit my discussions there to just the portions that are important for us in this course. So let's see, looks like this is the lecture for chapter 5, and I probably said the same things in that lecture. Looks like it's from the fall. The Connect assignments, I realize they are lengthy. I'm totally aware of that. As I suggested in the module, or I think in the first day handout, it's probably best if you read the chapter first, maybe once, maybe twice. If you read the chapter, watch the lecture video, take the notes, or have the note outline with you, and then try to do the Connect, because as you've probably already found out, it can be super frustrating if you get started on the Connect and you don't know the answers. They keep asking you about the same topic over and over again until you get the answers correct, and they don't let you quit until you score 100. So it's good, it's to your advantage, because it's essentially like 10% of extra credit. If you do all the Connect assignments, your grade starts at 10%, right? Remember, the exams are 70% of your grade. So you have to at least pass the exams, meaning getting at least a D on the exams to get a D in the course. And then the last 20% is your lab. So if you do the labs and do them well, and if you do the Connect assignments, pain in the ass as they are, if you do all of them and get 100 on all of them, that will significantly help your grade. I realize the exams the quizzes, lecture quizzes are very challenging. They're meant to be. This is a 200 level course. Again, it is 45 seconds per question, which means you have to study and prepare for this exam just like you were taking an exam in person. There is not time, there will not be time for you to look up every answer, or even the ones that you're maybe a little bit iffy on. You cannot look up the answers. You just can't. There is not enough time. You need to study. You need to answer the questions you know as quickly as possible, which will give you a little more time to reread those complex questions. The quiz will show one question at a time, but they are not, your answers are not locked after you view. So if you decide later, or there's a question you know you want to go back to, if you go back to it, you can change your answer. Please be sure you are sitting in a location where you have consistent internet service, where you will be able to complete the lecture quiz in one sitting. I cannot reopen the quiz at the question that you stopped at if something happens to your internet. So don't ask. All right. If something catastrophic happens, then most of the time, for example, like if Canvas goes down, or if there is a huge tropical rainstorm and many people's internet goes down, then usually what I do is I post a new quiz that's totally different, and I ask those people who haven't completed it to complete that quiz. However, if it's just one person, you're going to be asked to take the makeup quiz, which all the makeup quizzes will be held on the final exam day, which is July 14th. And you are only permitted to take one makeup quiz. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. You're only permitted to take one makeup quiz. All right, I think that's most of the housekeeping items. I hope I already said on this particular portion, please, please, please order your lab kit. If you have not ordered it, do it today, because you don't want those kits to get stuck in the Postal Service and not get to you until after Memorial Day weekend, especially with the heat that's coming. Some of the contents will be ruined if they are exposed to that type of heat. When you receive your kit, please refer to the announcement that I posted over the weekend, I think, about what should be refrigerated. Please don't send me a separate email. There's many of you. I think there's like 40 some of you this semester, this summer session. Please don't send me a separate email asking me what should I refrigerate from my kit. The kit says this and you said that, because I'm going to just say, please see the announcement. Okay, so it'll save us all a lot of time. Once you get the lab kit, I would recommend getting out your microscope. First, I would recommend opening the kit completely. And then I would not only do that, but I would, where's my stop share? There it is. And let's make me big. Speaker view, me. Why is this not going to be? There we go. As soon as you get your kit, I would recommend two things. You want to open it and make sure that you have all the contents that are in the kit for all the labs. You can find what you need for each lab. It is listed at the last module with the Carolina lab kit module that says Carolina booklets or handouts. They're all in there. I would also recommend you get out your microscope. You're going to need to put a battery in the bottom. So you're going to use a screwdriver and put a battery in there. And then I would check to be sure that the microscope turns on. There's a little switch here on the side that controls the light source, and you can get light coming out of the top of the microscope like I have here. Actually, no, it's coming up from the bottom in this. And then you can also turn the light on so that you can see something almost like a dissecting scope when you're getting illumination from the top. You cannot turn them both on at the same time. Most of the time, we're going to be using the illuminator from underneath. There are 3 objective lenses on your microscope. You've got a 4X, a 10X, and a 40. And I would remind you, I removed your ocular comes in a separate bag, wrapped separately, that you need to insert into here. And the ocular is 10X. So we are getting a maximum of 400X multiplication total mag when we use the 40X objective. I don't think you're going to need the stage clips very much. You'll probably be able to just move your specimen around on your own. The stage is decent size. You can fit a slide on there. The lab exercises the lab exercise about the microscope contains the slides that come in the box in your Carolina kit, and then you're going to need to use the microscope we do a simple stain and a gram stain with the actual bacteria that you're going to grow. Please do not rehydrate your bacteria yet, because once you rehydrate them, you have to maintain them and take care of them every day. Pretty much keep an eye on them, make sure they're not overgrowing. So I would not start your quick cultures yet. That module with the quick cultures is closed until you complete the microscope module. So I think the microscope module is open. It's not due until June 11th, the first lab, but I would like you can go ahead as soon as you get your kit, you can go ahead and start working on the microscope module. Our next lecture module is a tiny bit shorter. Let me go back to sharing screens with you again. You'll notice that our next module, module 3, is only 3 chapters. And there is a lecture quiz at the bottom of it next Tuesday, June 1st. This contains chapter 8, which is metabolism. Again, this should be review for you from Chem 102 and Bio 111. I do go through it in a fair amount of detail. Notice the lecture, it says it's a long one, so be prepared for that. I also provide a note outline for that chapter, I believe. Chapter 9 is genetics, molecular genetics or microbial genetics. I've divided that video up into 3 parts because each of it is very long. This video 1 and video 2, those should be review again from Bio 1 and from Chem 102. And then chapter 6 is probably new for most of you. It's a short chapter about viruses. So we'll go through, you can go through that. And then the lecture quiz next week is those 3 chapters. Once we get past next week, the lecture material, I think, gets a little bit more interesting, and it is a little more just microbiology focused. And that's when we're going to increase doing more of the actual labs that you have to do from your kit. Right, you'll see this video here is chapter 13 in lab kit instruction bits, because it's time to sort of start the lab kits. What I was speaking about earlier is down here. These are the handouts that would have come that are digital for the lab kit for most of the exercises that need the bacteria to be grown, and then in the microscope module, I think there's both general lab kit information. This lab safety manual is from Carolina. The video, how to use the microscope, lab safety quiz, microscope quiz, and lab report. Notice that, as I said, lab kit module 2 is closed until you finish these requirements. That first lab report is due on June 11th. Notice these are set for June 8th so that we can get going with our bacterial growth. I would also remind you that once you do start to grow the bacteria, you are going to need to babysit them every day, pretty much. And because it's warm now, and when I did these, if you take a look at this module, these lab kit videos, this is me doing the lab kits myself. And this was my sample planning document, my scheduling document. If you take a look at this, you'll see also that I have a rather ambitious schedule laid out here for myself, right? Day 1, day 2, day 0, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. It did end up taking me about 10 to 12 days when I actually did the lab kit myself. And that's because I was trying to do it in January. So the bacteria were not growing very quickly because the temperature where I was working was rather chilly. So in warmer weather, you probably will be able to make this schedule of 6, 7. I mean, I planned for like 8 or 9 days in a row where you have to work on your lab kit for a short amount of time every day, either setting something up or reading some results. That's important because that will probably fall for most of you around a weekend, and you have to be like, okay, this weekend I'm not going to the beach because I have to take care of my organisms, or I'm not going up to the mountains, or whatever it is you do to get away. You're going to have to babysit and do something pretty much every day in a row for, I would plan on 8 days on the outside. Okay, so let's stop the screen share. And I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions that they would like to ask. I would, since I'm recording this, if you don't want to be seen on the YouTube video, I do go back at the end of the semester and when I start a new class and delete all the Q&A sessions. But if you don't want your name to be shown, or you don't want, I guess I can't even do that, but if you don't want to be seen, you can certainly send me a question in the chat. Or you're welcome to turn your cameras on and your microphones on and just talk to me. That's fine, either way. So anybody have any specific questions about the material that's going to be on lecture quiz 1 that's going to open tomorrow? Boy, the pollen's really in my throat today.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Dr.
Is this Melinda?
Yes.
Hi, Melinda.
Hi, how are you? Um,
Good.
I was just curious, if you like for the quizzes, if you go off more of your PowerPoints, like obviously your lecture videos, you go off them, like the stuff you talk about on those, but would you prefer or recommend me to study more of the textbook, of the connects, or just the notes, like the PowerPoints?
So all of it, I would say that the quizzes are the least based on the Connect homework. The Connect
Okay.
homework is just to help you with repetition and understanding, but I do not use the Connect questions on my
Okay,
quizzes.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I've had a lot of connects. It's just different with every
I,
professor what they
I
put on them, you
I
know?
totally get it. I totally get it. Someone also asked me, which this is important that it's being recorded. Someone also asked me if the quizzes were going to be in Connect because some instructors are completely using the publisher's platform and not trying to use Canvas as little as possible. That's not the case here. So I think you guys kind of saw when I did screen share with you that I follow the module program. It's considered best practice if you're having a Canvas course to put everything the students need to do in a module. And then the modules end after a week. In our case, the modules are about 1 to 2 weeks in length. And that's just because the content of the material, it's not really a course that you can do just individual chapter by chapter. And we wouldn't obviously have time for that in the summer, but this is the same setup that that I've been using actually now since last spring. About 1 to 2 weeks in the normal semester, so 1 week in the short summer semester, and then there's a quiz. So it's about 8 weeks, 8 modules, 7 to 8 modules, and one of them's a lab module and one of them's a welcome module, right? So everything you need's in the module. Watch the lecture videos because the lecture videos are what I base my quizzes on.
Mhm.
Any of those PowerPoints that are up there, I made those. I mean,
Yeah.
like I copied the picture from the publisher, but usually I edit out all the text and put in my own text. So you don't just study the PowerPoints.
Yeah, of course.
This isn't a high school biology class.
Yeah.
So don't just study the PowerPoints. You're going to fail. So I would watch the lecture videos, take notes, and then use the power. I mostly have been using the PowerPoints as illustrations while I'm talking rather than having to draw everything from scratch.
Mhm.
But then you'll notice, like when we get to chapter 9, it's a lot more drawing and a lot less. I don't even think I use PowerPoints for chapter 9. So watch the lecture videos. Those are the PowerPoints, literally, I use them almost exclusively just for the pictures. So you can use your textbook for that as well.
And the wording, like, it'll be pretty similar.
Yes and no. So in that video that I posted last week about the orientation, right? So this class is a 200 level class. So it's going to be harder. It should be harder than Bio 1 as far as the content. Bio 1, I think, is harder to manage in terms of you have to do so many different things or learn how to do so many different things. In this course, it's a little bit deeper dive into the content. So what I mean by that is about 70% of the questions are going to be knowledge-based questions. So your Bloom's taxonomy calls them knowledge and understanding, right? So just, do you know this material? And so that's what when I said you're going to have to study it and memorize a bunch of it to be able to answer those knowledge questions very quickly. Then there will be another 10 to 20%, well, 70%, so another 30% of questions that I would call the B questions and the A questions. Those questions are going to be difficult. They're going to be difficult to read. They're going to be difficult for you to sort out quickly what the correct answer is, because they're not testing just, do you know this? They're testing, can you apply this? Can you analyze something that I give you and use it in a new way? And because we're using almost exclusively objective questions in Canvas, that's a little bit more challenging. So the more you know the knowledge, the faster you're going to be able to answer those knowledge questions, which will give you a little bit of a buffer to spend more time thinking about those BA questions, right? I'll just tell you, last semester I had 3 sections of microbiology online, and I was finished with about 78 students, let's say, minus the ones that were the withdrawals. So I finished with about 74 students, and about 10%, 10 to 11% of the students received A's. So it's certainly possible. It's very time demanding. I mean, it's an unbelievable crunch to try to do this in the summer. Even normally when we're in person, it's fast. It's about the same pace that I'm using for the online course. So spend the time doing the connect, I would say, and getting that out of the way early in the week, and then spend the rest of the time watching the lecture videos and taking the notes and studying the notes. And I would say, you know, every day you need to devote 1 to 2 hours at least to this, depending on what your background is. Like some people that are just coming off Chem 102 and Bio 1, this whole first section probably is going to be super easy for them. People who haven't had Bio 1 in a while and maybe didn't do so great and still haven't taken their chemistries, you're going to need to spend a lot more time studying this, because you just don't have the same background that we're sort of expecting for, you know, this 200 level class. Most people save the micro for the end, just, you know, in general. So for most people, they do come into it with a little bit more experience than, say, the A&P 1, but that's just based on
Right.
you individually.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anything else? Specifically, all right. I'm going to end the recording.